listening to Cricket World Radio.
And this is Cricket World Around the World.
You're listening to Cricket World Radio. This is Cricket World Around the World. I'm John Pennington, and normally I'm joined in the studio by Jim or Alistair or others, but this week, a little bit different. We're bringing back Where's Jim? Jim, where are you? What are you doing?
Listen, John, it's quite extraordinary, really. I'm actually in Canary Wharf today, in the middle of London, and with me I've got Devon Malcolm, Chance to Shine project here. And Devon, just tell us a bit more about it.
Well, we are showcasing the Devon Malcolm concertina cricket net system right in the heart of the city, playing just under the tallest skyscraper in the UK here. And we're playing cricket. You know, as I said, we invited Chance to Shine down as well. And as you can look around, it's a lovely day here. People walking around in their suits, sitting down having lunch. Take their jacket off, come to have a bat against me. Luckily, all the windows here are still intact. I haven't been smacked out of the nets here for 6 yet. So these net systems are doing a good job. But I mean, the concertina net system was designed really to get cricket to be played in areas like that, confined spaces, and we're trying to get these in the schools around the area. Thanks to Canary Wharf PLC, they put quite a good funding together. So any schools in the area who are keen to have one of these systems, they can get this as a very good price, really.
Fantastic, Devon. Also, you know, just looking around, a lot of people are looking to get into cricket here in all forms of cricket. And we were just going to mention just earlier about England now have 3 captains, 3 forms of cricket. We were just saying earlier, you think it may be a good thing, but you'd like to see it just work for a while, and then you can make a judgment.
Indeed, as I said, it's new. I mean, the volume of cricket the guys are playing these days is massive. So they're looking to form. I know the management is forward thinking. So obviously they're trying to put 3 different captains for different competition. Hopefully in the future, you probably find one of the guys, Cookie probably or Broad, he probably said, look, I can take on 2 of these formats as a captain, and that probably happened. But at the moment, it's too much of work on Strauss. He just to be concentrating on all formats of the game. He probably don't want to play 2020, or he probably just want to concentrate on Test cricket, whatever. But it's a massive amount of cricket. Even management somehow got to try and build in some form of rest. So that's one way. And one thing for certain, though, this will give quite a lot more specialist 2020 specialist 50 over game and Test cricket has a bit more chance, so there'll be a lot more to choose from anyway.
Well, there's only 4 overs each. Any chance of a Devon Malcolm come back in 2020?
I tell you what, I'll stick to my seniors tournament. I travel around and play the senior stuff. That's great. I bowl my 4 overs, take some wickets, I stay on. If I get spanked, I'll be taken off, and I can pop down to fine leg. But you know, it's a great format. It, you know, encourage youngster or people who can't take the longer form of the games, and hopefully from that quite a few will filter through to watch the longer form of the game, the 50 over game, the Test cricket really, and the income the 20 over game generates, that will help to obviously sustain Test cricket, no doubt.
Well, listen, we know Devon's got a few more overs to bowl to Devon, so thanks for joining us here in Canary Wharf. A few more guys in suits who are prepared to face you, so good luck and get a very few more wickets.
Indeed, thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us.
Cheers.
So there's Devon Malcolm, John, joining us here live in Canary Wharf, if you like. It's been a very interesting day. A lot of people in suits looking on having their lunch, and thankfully a few people have had a go.
Great stuff. Well, Devon's finished. We're going to hang on to you for a bit longer, Jim, because we just want to discuss some of the major news stories of the week. One thing I've got written down here: West Indies, Pakistan. Do you know how long it was before the win that the West Indies took early this week, their previous win was?
Good question, John. Top of my head, I don't know. I'm sure you do.
They're 27 months, so they've no doubt been enjoying that win. But what did you make of it? I mean, you predicted the win, so well done to you. But it was a great performance, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I think, you know, my thoughts at the time when we were talking were that, you know, they've come off the back of a couple of ODI wins, which has given them a really good impetus, and they're starting to realise why, you know, being such a successful team starts to work. You can probably notice there's a few more airplanes flying over from City Airport. That won't halt us. But yeah, Pakistan was struggling. I think they had a little bit of, you know, sort of hadn't really maintained their concentration, and you know, the West Indian players, I think, you know, went into the Test match really believing that they can up their game and have got a chance to play to their true abilities, and you know, hopefully we'll see more of it in the months to come.
That's right, they start again very soon with the second test, and then they host India. Now, if that's a test, well, if you want to really test yourselves in Test cricket at the moment, that's what you do. You sort of host or go to India. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they match up against India. That, of course, coming a little bit later on in the year. Talking and staying with India, Indian Premier League, we're getting into the real business end of the tournament now. The playoffs are just around the corner. What have you made of some of the action this week, Jim? I know you've enjoyed watching your former clubmate Adam Gilchrist star for the Kings 11 Punjab.
Absolutely, you're quite right. Great to see, good friends and playing good cricket, and it really was a scintillating 100 by Gilly. His partnership with Sean Marsh, really goes to show probably the past and the future of Australian cricket, and really healthy times for them in some departments. We know that they're struggling in some areas, but the IPL really has been. It's been a good tournament. In that, I think on the back of the World Cup there were some thoughts it might be one of these. It's too long. However, some of the games have been really exciting. Again, a chance for some of the young Indian players to really make a name for themselves. And some of the performances, yes, Gilly's probably the highlight to date, and will be remembered by all those that were there. And those that weren't, at least had a chance to keep an eye on it through some of the coverage worldwide. And it's, again, showcasing cricket. Just talking to Devon earlier there, the amount of cricket people are playing, is there a case for resting people, having squads as in some other sports? I think it is happening at the moment, but as we sort of move forwards, the IPL, I'm sure, will be looking at itself saying, is this what we want? Is it going the right way? 2 new teams playing in, great to see them as well. And, there's been some good results, and not always, not all been one-way traffic.
And one other piece of news that I'm sure is sort of reverberating around the world, Jim, you've discovered Twitter this week. Would you like to tell our listeners your handle so they can follow you as you travel all around the world, catching up with cricketers past and present?
Absolutely, John. At JimWhite_CW for Cricket World is my twit feed, whatever it's called. I'm getting there slowly but surely. Yeah, very exciting stuff, really. I had a little tweet earlier today that I was here in Canary Wharf. Off to a dinner this evening with some of the England players. Ashes dinner, Stuart and Chris Broad will be there supporting the Broad appeal. And tomorrow more cricket in London. So let people know where we are, and if we bump into any more former England cricketers like Devon Malcolm, we'll be sure to let people know and what they've said.
Brilliant stuff, Jim. Well, thanks so much for your time today. That's all we've got time for this part of the show, and we'll let you get back to bowling bouncers at Bankers.
Great stuff, John. Thanks, and I'm sure I'll be back in the office sometime soon.
Brilliant stuff. Jim White and Devon Malcolm joining me there from London. Time now then for this week's edition of the ICC Cricket Radio Show. This week they've got interviews with Alistair Cook, a New England one-day international captain of course, and a former very successful Australian captain, Mark Taylor.
Hi there and welcome to another episode of ICC Cricket World. I'm Gautam Bhimani. In today's episode we talk to England's brand new one-day captain, Alistair Cook. We also have an exclusive chat with former Australian captain Mark Taylor. But, as always, we start the show with all the very latest happenings in the world of cricket. Here's Divya Bhagat with the news.
It seems like the recent premiere of Fire in Babylon has reignited the lost fire on the West Indies side. The team finally managed to win their first major test in over 2 years when they beat Pakistan in the first test at the Providence Stadium in Guyana. The Windies side won the low-scoring affair with inspiring performances from their bowlers, especially skipper Darren Sammy, who claimed a fifer in the second innings. Chasing 219 for a win, Pakistan were bundled out for 178, with skipper Misbah-ul Haq's 52 being their best effort. Sammy had been under fire ever since he was appointed captain, but this performance would do him a world of good. Also, Ravi Rampal and debutant leg spinner Devendra Bishu's impressive performance are good signs heading into the second test in St. Kitts. For the visitors, the only positive was off-spinner Saeed Ajmal, who scalped 11 wickets in the match. Australian seamer Stuart Clark has announced his retirement from international and state cricket this week. The 35-year-old, who has played 24 Test and 39 one-day internationals for Australia, has taken up the role of general manager of the Sydney Sixers in a new 8-team city-based 2020 domestic competition starting this summer. And former Sri Lankan captain Kumar Sanqara will deliver the MCC Spirit of Cricket Cowdray lecture this year. Sanqara becomes the first Sri Lankan and current international cricketer to be invited to speak at the annual event that takes place on the 4th of July. The 33-year-old Sanqara will become the youngest speaker to give the lecture following 2009 lecturer Adam Gilchrist and follows the likes of Geoffrey Boycott, Archbishop Desmond Tutu and Imran Khan. The event takes place one day after the third ODI between England and Sri Lanka played at Lord's.
Thank you, Divya. Yes, it should be interesting to hear Kumar Sanqara delivering the MCC Spirit of Cricket Cowdray lecture this year. Certainly one person who looks like he will deliver that lecture in time to come is England's brand new one-day captain, Alistair Cook. Here he is in conversation with Jatin Sabru. Alistair, it's indeed an honour. Thank you so much for joining us here on ICC Cricket World. First and foremost, everyone wants to know, is it like a childhood dream come true? How big is this moment for you leading the English side?
Yeah, very excited about the challenge. Huge honour to be England captain, and again, very excited to work alongside Andrew Strauss and Stuart Broad.
The multi-captaincy theory, different captains in the Test, ODIs and T20 format, is that going to change your approach, or for that matter even Strauss's or Stuart Broad's approach?
I don't think we need to change things drastically or anything. I think under the system with three captains and working under Andy Flower, that Andrew Strauss and Andy Flower are still in controls of Team England, and me and Stuart obviously take the separate sides away, but they're still very much foreseeing the way England plays as well. So it's definitely much a very team ethic.
Well, there's no doubt that there'll be a lot of pressure on you and Stuart. Pressure? How do you think you'll handle the critics? Do you reckon a thing or two to learn from Andrew Strauss here?
Look, I mean, I think it's really exciting to have two captains of, are slightly younger and have been around before, but also to have someone like Strauss in the experience side of it as well. In the thing, I think is a great mix that we're going to have to learn off Strauss. There's no, we're not sitting here just because you get given the captaincy doesn't mean you're an expert or anything. So, to have someone like Strauss and Andy almost helping us along the way and probably taking a lot of those outside distractions off us, is a good start.
Well, now I'm sure that you have the debrief about what happened in the 2011 World Cup. Is preparing for the 2015 edition in Australia, New Zealand top on your priority? Does the planning start now?
I think it's very important to have a very long-term goal. I think it's we haven't won a global event as a one-day side. Obviously 2020 happened as a 50-over game. We haven't, so certainly a very important thing to have that long-term goal. We know that things can change very quickly in sport, but I think to have something right at the top of the list, although it's a long time away, I think it's important. And there is planning to be done for that 4 years' time. But what also is vitally important is that we don't look too far ahead. We concentrate on the next game and trying to pick the side which we think is best to play that next game and win the next game. But as I say, this is a new challenge, a new side, so I think there will be a chance for new players to come in.
So taking a cue from what you just said, do you reckon it'll be horses for courses? Say, for example, you pick a player who you think is good enough to beat Sri Lanka and then India, but not certain in your long-term plan.
I think you need to get that balance as well. I think it's a good chance to see how new people come in, but you can't just suddenly have a team full of 21-year-olds and saying, well, that's what our side's going to be like in 4 years, because we don't know. Of course, we'd love to know the future, but we don't know, so we've got to be very careful. And that's for people like Andy Flower and Jeff Miller, who've experienced selectors. That's their job to do, and obviously you do get a say as a captain, but it's certainly a job which we do as a one-day side.
Alistair, what's more daunting to you? Is it captaincy with limited experience, or is it the pressure of going out and scoring runs?
I think we all know when you first go in the captain side, everyone starts, if you're a batter, everyone starts to look straight away at the runs you score, and in Bangladesh it went well, and it proved to me that I can definitely do that. The challenge to try and continue that, be able to keep separating the role as a captain when you're in the field and then as a batter when you're batting, and you will get better at that and being able to deal with those issues and separate them. In terms of more daunting, I don't think that is daunting. I think it's exciting that I get the chance to play one-day cricket for England and make some decisions which will be responsible, hopefully, for England's success.
How do you assess your performance so far as an England ODI batsman?
Well, obviously the stats say that I've average mid-30s, and I think there's a lot of room for improvement from that. But I've got a lot of starts. I'll put it if I'd have taken my opportunity straight away when I first came in this side. I wouldn't have been sitting here not playing for 2.5 years. But the longer form of the game obviously is more natural to me, and I've had to. I found that easier when I first came into professional cricket, and now as a professional cricketer, I've had to learn those extra skills, just like everyone else has to learn new skills to try and improve themselves to play. And I've had to work very hard on my one-day game so that I can get into that one-day side. And people like Andy Flower, who I judge there, and Jeff Miller and Hugh Morris, I judge their their selection a lot, and they back me. They think I can do a job at the top of the order.
Well, according to critics, one of the most impressive thing about you right from your younger days has been your ability to score runs. In fact, a way to find how to score runs no matter what the conditions.
That is a knack of batting, isn't it? It's like when I first 2020 first came around. To go out and try and score runs straight away rather than playing yourself in, that was so unnatural for me. Other players, find that really easy, and they struggle adapting to the longer game when they have to be a bit more disciplined. So, but that's the modern game of cricket now. You have to be able to adapt your skills to 3 different games, and the very successful players can do that.
Right. What kind of a batsman do you reckon would complement you at the top? Anyone particular in mind?
Yeah, someone who scores runs and scores runs well, and that's everyone talk a lot about styles, but a lot of stuff about one-day cricket is scoring the runs and taking the wickets to win games of cricket, and that's so important. That styles this, styles that, but it's making sure that we as an England side try to win every game, and that's my job as a captain. Is you judge on results, and I always say you judge on results, and if you're not going well, the captain gets the blame. If you're going well, the captain gets applauded, but you're only as good as your players to allow you to do that. So I am certainly, looking at certain people who I want to play with me, but because we've got some, the talent around the country is extraordinary, and look at the squad, especially in the bowling side in terms of Test cricket. You can pick almost 10 names out of a hat to play Test cricket, and I think we're getting that stage now that those skills can definitely transfer into the one-day game as well.
Alistair, thank you so much for talking to us on ICC Cricket World. From all of us here, wishing you all the very best for your future endeavours. Lots of responsibility on Alistair Cook, one of 3 captains along with Andrew Strauss and Stuart Broad in the 3 formats of the game for England. Time now to head from an Englishman to an Australian. Jatin Sapru caught up with former Australian captain and opening batsman Mark Taylor. Mark Taylor, thank you so much for giving ICC Cricket World your prestigious time. First and foremost, let us know, where have you been? What's been happening with you?
Well, I'm doing a fair bit in and around cricket. Generally this time of year is a quiet time for me, but with the ICC Cricket Committee, I sit on the Cricket Australia Board and the New South Wales Cricket Board, a number of meetings. I'm also on quite a few committees of cricket in Australia at the moment. So seem to be spending a lot of time talking cricket, which I generally enjoy. So yeah, cricket's still a fairly big part of my life, even in the off-season.
Mark, I'm sure you were expecting this question after Australia's performance in the ICC Cricket World Cup 2011. Lots of changes which have come about in the system, the biggest being Ricky Ponting giving up captaincy and Michael Clarke now donning that hat. Do you reckon all the changes are the right step moving ahead into the future?
Oh, look, I think it was probably time for a change. Things haven't gone as well for Australia in the last probably 12, 24 months, I'd say. So it's probably a good time for a change. I think with the new captain you'll just see a slight change in philosophy. So that's probably not a bad thing to a side that's been battling a bit, as I said, particularly over the last 12 months. So it'll be interesting to see what Michael Clarke can bring to the table and whether he can lift the side, because I still think there's plenty of talent around Australian cricket. We've just got to make sure that we start funding them all in the same direction.
Were you surprised with Australia's nose-diving performances? Back-to-back Ashes defeats first, then not even making the semis in a competition they've dominated for the last 3 editions. Was that really disappointing?
Look, I think the Ashes was probably disappointing because we lost the series. Not only did we lose the series 3-1, but we lost 3 test matches by innings, and that was a big loss for us. So there's no doubt that was a disappointing series. The Cricket World Cup less so. If you look at Australia's results leading up to the last couple of games, they were the only undefeated side there at one stage. I think they had 4 wins and a draw against Sri Lanka. Then they played Pakistan in their last pool game and lost that game. And all of a sudden, that resigned them to a quarter-final against India, who were the eventual winners. So I don't think the exit at the quarter-final stage of the World Cup was... Obviously, we would have liked to have won the event, but I don't think that was a drastic or disappointing result, as much as, say, the Ashes was, where we were soundly beaten in Australia on our home turf.
Mark, cricket's evolved a lot from the time you used to play. How do you see the game today? Any particular things that you'd like reviewed, or are you happy with the health of the game at the moment?
I think cricket is, well, it's in one of those very interesting stages, I suppose. You've got 2020 cricket, which is bringing new fans, a lot more money to the game, which is a wonderful opportunity. At the same time, we risk where one-day cricket sits, and most importantly, where test match cricket sits. So I suppose it's up to all of us, administrators, players out there, coaches, managers, the lot, to really continue to look at these changes in the game and make sure that the changes that 2020 have brought to the game are used for the good of the game as well. And for that I mean some money and some investment goes back into test cricket, because I still think there's a lot of people out there in the world of cricket who still love their test cricket and want to see a good brand of test cricket.
Well, let's put you on the spot now. 2 things that you would like to change about the game at present.
2 things I'd change about cricket. There's not a lot I'd change. As I said, I think that it's a different game to what I played sort of 11 or 12 years ago. There is 2020 cricket around these days. There's technology being used for umpiring decisions, or to review umpiring decisions. That's not necessarily a bad thing, provided everything is done for the good of the game. That's what I want to see, and I think if we get that right, the game will be right.
Mark, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for sharing your views. Thank you for joining us on ICC Cricket World.
Thank you so much for that, Jatin. It's now time on the show when we head to the Reliance ICC player rankings to see who's up and who's down this week. Who else but the Indian maestro Sachin Tendulkar rules the roost in the Reliance ICC player rankings in test matches with 883 points. Tied with him in points is South African Jacques Kallis, and trailing this duo by just 1 point is former Sri Lankan captain Kumar Sangakkara. Following the elegant left-hander are Englishman Jonathan Trott and the new one-day captain Alistair Cook. India's injured man Virender Sehwag is on 6th place, closely followed by Mahela Jayawardene. West Indies comeback man Shivnarayan Chanderpaul is at number 8 with 779 points, and completing the top 10 in the test match rankings are VVS Lakshman and Thilan Samaravida. Moving to the Reliance ICC player rankings for bowlers in test matches, paceman Dale Steyn is leading the charts with 899 points. Steyn leaves the opposition far behind, and in 2nd place is English off-spinner Graham Swan with only 793 points. Swan is followed by teammate James Anderson with Morne Morkel on 4th, with the tall South African garnering 751 points. Fast catching up with him is the spearhead of India's bowling attack Zahir Khan. Next up, another left-arm pacer in Mitchell Johnson, followed by 3 spinners Harbhajan Singh, Shakib Al Hasan and Daniel Vettori. And the final bowler in the top 10 is England's new 2020 captain Stuart Broad. That completes the Reliance ICC Test rankings for bowlers. The Reliance ICC player rankings brings us to the end of another episode of ICC Cricket World. Until we see you again, we hope you've enjoyed listening to the show just as much as the whole team has enjoyed putting it together. I'm Gautam Bhimani saying goodbye.